Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining Axcient's Facebook Live, how to prepare for the new normal. Before we get started, I would like to go over some housekeeping items. This is an opportunity for us to share, engage, and have a discussion around what we're experiencing with COVID-19. And so please share your comments in the chat box below to the right. And to kick it off and to let me know that you're here, please let me know where you're tuning in from. Okay. To make sure that this is an engaging session, we are giving away Axcient swag, some t-shirts for the first 5 participants that post comments on the chat. So please, we welcome them. And then next, I'd like to make sure that, if you have any direct questions for anyone that's on the panel, please post their name in that chat, and we could go ahead and ask those questions of them. So first of all, I'd like to start off with some introductions. First host is Robert Giaffi from Progressive Computing. He's the co-founder and COO. Welcome. And where are you tuning in from, Robert?
I'm sitting in our office in Yonkers, New York.
Oh, so you're not working from home?
Well, technically my staff is working from home, but we have 3 people in about 5,000 square feet across 2 floors. So we're pretty separated.
Makes sense. Absolutely. And then we also have Chris Phillips, Senior Director, Partner Advisor at CompTIA. Chris, welcome.
Hello, I'm calling in from lovely Southern California.
Beautiful. And I see that you have some cool things in the background there. Where exactly are you, at home?
I am at home. I work from home normally. CompTIA's headquarters is in Chicago, and I work remotely. But yeah, so it's normal for me. Stay at home.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining today. And then we also have an Axcient team member joining us, Ben Nowacki. Excuse me? I'm sorry, I thought I heard something. We also have Ben Nowacki with us, Senior VP of Engineering. Ben, thank you for joining us today. And I also see that we have David Bennett. David, thank you for joining. He's happy to see you guys both here. Thank you. So I'd like to start off with Robert. Can you share a little bit about yourself, your MSP business?
Sure. We're based in Yonkers, New York, which is in the shadow of New York City. It's about a city of 200,000 people. The county is Westchester County, which may have been making some headlines for some of you out there. It's one of the epicenters of what's going on here in the country right now. But we're an MSP. We were founded in 1993 by myself and my current business partner. 30 employees. We're part of the Evolve peer group. What else is there to say? There's so much to say. We'll take up a whole half hour, so I'll leave it at that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Can you share a little bit about how, with COVID-19, how'd you guys initially respond to that?
Yeah, so, in New York, there was maybe some quicker acceleration with working from home mandates. The governor, within the span of a few days, had gone from 25 to 50 to 100%. We were always ahead of that curve. We anticipated that would happen. So we started to get our team working from home. And as you might imagine, we were already pretty well set up to do that. So there really wasn't much of an impact for us, at least for us to be able to service our customers remotely. But what has obviously happened are slowdowns in things like physical project implementations or on-site visits. The work then suddenly shifted to massive amounts of getting our customer base operational from within their homes. And so that presented all sorts of challenges that people had not been anticipating. That's it in a nutshell.
Okay. You raised a very good point, is that we had to pivot rather quickly. And on your priorities, I just heard that your priorities somewhat changed as a result of this. What are your priorities today?
Well, today we're really focused on working on professional development and getting some other projects done, both for our customers and for ourselves internally, because we had a pretty steep incline of number of tickets. I think we peaked at almost 4x in one day. I think it was that Tuesday after the shutdown. For us, it was massively busy here. And then for the trend began to come down, and right now it's at about normal levels, but subtract out on-site visits and project work. So that's left us in this state that I've talked about, which is that we're looking ways to improve our productivity and our operational maturity level at the moment.
Thank you, Robert. I do want to take a moment to welcome Marcus from Edmonton, Alberta. Thank you for joining us. Chris, can you share, like, what are you hearing being with CompTIA? I'm sure you're connected with many people in the industry and MSPs. What you heard from Robert, is that similar? Is there anything different that you could share?
So we've seen a lot of people having to move traditional office space people into their homes, and many of them weren't prepared for remote access. So we've seen a lot of people having to, deploy software on their desktops and then telling employees to take desktops home. And we've created a portal and some resources for partners to take a look at and find, best ways to help with remote access and kind of deploying employees. And it's all available on our website for free.
Fantastic. Thank you. Ben, can you speak a little bit about what Axcient has done in regards to responding? And, I know last week on Facebook Live, we did take a minute to share about, what we're doing for our MSPs. Anything new that we're doing and anything that, in recent light that's being focused on?
Yeah, besides offering licensing and having deals for our partners through July or August for Anchor, our remote file sync and share solution for remote employee enablement, and our NFR program, which we've already launched, we're continuing to look at accelerating our roadmap in certain directions. So we've shifted development priorities from some of our other products to bring more teams on to Cloud Finder and Anchor, which are for remote team enablement. So We've taken roadmap that we had scheduled for later on in the year that we thought would be extremely valuable and useful and needed for our partners and our customers and their customers today, and we've figured out ways to accelerate that development, getting it out faster. So you'll see things, not to tip our hat too early, but just to kind of give those who were brave enough to join us on Facebook Live here a tip of the hat. You'll be seeing things like in Anchor, we'll be doing a O365 integration, which will be coming out here very soon. So you'll be able to set a default file editor, collaborative web editor to O365. We did a facelift on our Anchor product, which we got out. We had scheduled that for later on in the year, and we actually launched that last week or a little over a week ago, and we're seeing great support and usage. So we wanted to figure out ways to empower our remote teams and make work life easier for them, given that they're working from home, dealing with spouses, dealing with kids, dealing with dogs and everything else running around. How can we make their lives a little bit easier?
Yeah, I see a lot of nodding from Robert and Chris. So absolutely true. One thing I do want to pull in here is Dwayne. He mentions, shift. You guys all talked a little bit about shifting resources, for example. Ben, you mentioned that, shifting focus, priorities, etc. And Dwayne here talks about the turmoil with the need to set up and support a remote workforce. Do you have any best practices, for example, Robert, that you've done to quickly shift that?
I don't know about best practices, because that would seem to suggest that we had it well thought out ahead of time before we needed it, right? So, but maybe we've discovered some new best practices through this process and how we've managed throughout these times of chaos. So I certainly wouldn't characterize them as best practices. However, that being said, we did take a lot of time and effort to strategize internally to make sure that we were working on some of the on your business things, as was in the question, instead of in it. We anticipated that those first 2 weeks were going to be hell, and they were. Not to say that I had a crystal ball as what we were going to see, but we a lot of us were thinking in about 2 weeks this is going to kind of die down, and we need stuff to do. So between getting creative with some project work for customers, as well as prioritizing some of the things that we could do internally. I mean, if you think about just training, just getting certifications, working on an internal project. We use EOS here, so there's a lot of rock work being done now. If you're familiar with EOS terms, so those sorts of things is what I would now consider a best practice that I would put in my future playbook.
Got it. That was very helpful. And Chris, I'm sorry, you were going to say something maybe to.
Yep. So a couple points around training and education. So CompTIA is the largest nonprofit IT association, and we train and certify that workforce. So a couple things that we're doing is we're extending our vouchers right now. So any vouchers, they're going to be extended out a little bit longer, as well as we're offering free ITF Cert Master, which is a training. So if you're looking to get educated at this time, there's some resources, as well as today, CompTIA announced for the first time we're going to be able to do online testing for certifications remotely. So there's going to be a lot of changes to the way that we do our proctored tests moving forward. So there's a lot of good resources that we have. And one thing, we do have a vendor list of resources on our COVID site. So for Axcient and any other vendors listening, if you have kind of resources and solutions you want to mention, you can go to covid.comptia.org.
That would be fantastic for the community to share, as well as being a central location on CompTIA. Thank you very much for that, Chris. As a result of the training and education, and are you seeing inquiries come in more for training and education as a result of this? And is that a reaction to what you're seeing in behavior, is to provide that online?
I think to Robert, so we've been looking at doing this online for some time, long before this COVID incident, right? So to Robert's point, though, there's lots of people that are looking for activity, looking for something to do, right? So not only is there an increase in just, work-related training, but we're seeing a lot of things that are around soft skills and just trying to better yourself in this time.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Thank you. I do want to shift a little bit and touch on something Robert brought up, that is the crystal ball and knowing what the future might hold, right? And so that is the second half of our chat today. What does the future hold? What should we be thinking about, focusing on, prioritizing? Whether it is verticals, whether it's use cases, really looking at, our business and opportunities, maybe, or taking what we do already have and make it even better. So, Chris, someone who has really made progress in, verticals, can you share a little bit of insight into that? Like, where should we be focusing on? What are you seeing in the industry?
So the things that I see immediately, right? It's number one, getting everybody acclimated and situated in their work environment, right? So number one, it's kind of this triage of getting everybody online, in place, and getting them up to speed. I think we've seen most of that already happening, and kind of people are settling in. So really now it's how do you sell and how do you market without appearing to kind of be, taking advantage of the situation. So I think that there's a balancing act that people have to do between, I want to help my clients and help them, through this time, and at the same time understanding that you're a business and you have to make money too, right? So you can't give, too much away. So I think that people are finding their way through this, but I think that there's going to be lots of opportunity moving forward with a lot of these companies that didn't think they could, deploy a remote workforce or, didn't want to. And I think that that's going to be a big change moving forward.
Absolutely. And Robert, what are your thoughts about what the future might be? Or what is the future for, progressive computing? What are you thinking about right now?
We're thinking about quite a lot. And so we've started this, I'll say, a thread of a conversation here internally about what are our opportunities without, doing any kind of heavy, straightforward marketing right now, sounding like we're trying to be opportunistic. But, in many ways, we are trying to be opportunistic. We are looking for what's next. So one of those things is business continuity planning under the umbrella of VCIO services. It's traditionally a hard thing to sell because especially in the state of the economy the last couple of years, everything has been really solid and we've felt very safe, especially, for those of us like me being a New Yorker, remembering times of 9/11 and Hurricane Sandy and things like that have left an indelible mark on our minds. But as of late, I think there's been this sense of safety and comfort, and I don't need to think about these things. Well, now I think having that conversation with customers around business continuity planning, and it doesn't have to be an expensive conversation either. It's more of a high value conversation around what is it that we're going to do about our plans, because lots of you did not really plan well for this. And so what are those challenges? Let's role play through the scenarios. Let's figure out what we're going to do when the next thing hits, because there will always be a next thing.
Absolutely. What you said makes me think about, with the physical distancing and being able to stay connected with our clients, and having those very serious conversations about business continuity. How are you engaging with your partners and having those conversations? Is it difficult that you're not face to face, or how do you operate?
I mean, transactionally, we're supporting people, and we've actually taken a page probably from what everybody else is doing right now. We've gone digital, remote meetings, video based calls. The help desk team, the service team is doing what they've always done. So there's no change there. But to be quite frank and honest, a lot of the strategic type of meetings have almost come to a grinding halt, because many of our clients are focused on their survival mode right now, right? And that varies from client to client. Different clients are experiencing things in different ways. So some are flourishing, believe it or not. I've had conversations with some business leaders. We have one client who's in the chemical cleaning process, so you can only imagine that their sales are going through the roof at the moment, right? But another one that does event planning, that had all of their events for April and May canceled, coming off their 2 best months ever. So, there's a lot of turbulence out there, and it's kind of difficult to have those types of conversations now.
Okay. So those are
Corey,
go ahead.
Robert, just, I'm curious, one thing that I've been curious about, and Chris as well, we talk about the triage work that's been done right now to kind of enable people to kind of get them remote, kind of keep the businesses running, kind of keep that continuity going for people. But how are you seeing the pipeline of business coming in, and how are you working to prospect and continue to keep that pipeline full for new business as you have to continue to grow and prosper?
Yeah, I'm going to just jump in there really quick. We've been putting on a series of educational webinars. Our attendance numbers have been through the roof. In fact, we broke our account on the first one because it was so successful. We had not anticipated how many people were actually going to be interested. So we have a lot of we have a very captive audience right now, right? People are looking for, I think Chris, you said it earlier, people are looking for stuff to do. And the other way is just to continuously educate our audience through social media, these webinars, getting involved with local business groups, putting out messages, sort of things like that we're trying to remain relevant and front and center, not by saying, I have a thing that you can buy, but here's how we can help solve immediate problems and get you through this. And by the way, we signed our tied for our number 2 highest account yesterday. So and they're a New York City based company. So our sales right now are kind of moving in the right direction, not the wrong direction.
We've seen something similar, and really the thing that I think about is this is technology's time to shine, right? It really is this is where we can take the things that we know and we know how to do and help people out. And CompTIA's mission is really just to advance the technology industry. And I look at this as everyone from vendors to solution providers to the customers and distributors alike. It's really our time to kind of help people through this and while still maintaining businesses and kind of getting things back to normal.
Thank you. I do have one other question that I want to follow up on. Chris, you mentioned about the working from home and stabilizing that. And as we look to the future, beyond working from home, Robert mentioned some verticals that are doing extremely well and some aren't doing so well. Do you have any verticals that you think that MSPs we should be looking at and focusing our energy on and prioritizing them?
Well, so we've been in I've been in this position over 3 years, and we've been trying to convince, technology solution providers to sell the next, the more advanced thing, the emerging technology. So I certainly see software and software as a service is huge right now, right? So anything that will help remote workers. And I think that it's going to depend on the vertical. I saw an interesting stat this morning about all the different products that are selling more now versus the products that are selling less. So I think, any prediction or future trying to guess is going to be a little bit tough, because I think that things are changing not only, day by day, but just even hour by hour.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to say thank you to all of you joining us. Is there any last minute insight or advice that you want to share with our audience before we wrap this up?
I have something. So to Robert's point, do something to better yourself during this time, right? Whether it's an online class, learning a second language, anything that you can do that will help, number one, occupy some time, and number two, better yourself. So take advantage of the time. Perfect.
Thank you for that suggestion. Robert?
Yeah, there's, so many points I can touch on. I guess one of the big things to work on, aside from bettering yourself, is make sure you're communicating with your clients. But what I mean by that, and it's not just email, but pick up the phone and just say, hey, everything is cool here, if that is true, right? You don't want to mischaracterize what's going on within your business. But for us, we're here, everything is cool, we're ready and able to support in just about every single way we can. What's going on in your business? How can I help? Even just listening. And what I've done is, from some of those little stories that I've been picking up phone call by phone call, I've been capturing them and writing them in an email and sending them out to all of our customers to share the successes that one may have or how someone has overcome a challenge. So just communicate is really the bottom line there.
Would you mind sharing a story so we can make feeling good?
Yeah, I'll give you actually two really quick ones. One of our customers is in the HVAC business, and so like us, with certifications, he got all of his entire team OSHA certified because they're a little, they've got some free time right now. The event planner, we hooked up with a funeral home because if you think about it, funeral homes can't have wakes and they can do tele-wakes, and so we took a business that was booming and we took a business that was down, and we kind of put them together. And they're talking about not just doing this in the short term, but how do they do this as a service moving forward forever?
No, that makes sense. Robert, I do want to make sure that I acknowledge our audience. Marcus has a question related to cybersecurity. Excuse me. Is there any new challenges in protecting data with given access of remote workers? And I open that up to any one of you. And Ben, maybe that might be a great start for you, considering your background.
Yeah, sure. So it definitely is. Office environments are easy to secure, right? You have hundreds of users in a small space, or 50 to hundreds in a small space, and you can control the pipe in and out very easily. When you move to a remote workers, obviously you've got, hundreds of different connections that you're managing. You've got hundreds of different scenarios. You don't know what kind of computers everyone's on. And to your point, Robert, people are just picking up desktops and taking them home. So it's these very different, very diverse environments. So security is definitely something that you should be concerned about. Down to the simplest thing, as far as even just enabling VPN access for everybody and having a default VPN for at-home workers and being able to support that, all the way through file sync and share solutions and being able to collaborate easily in a secure method. those are all considerations that need to be thought about, making sure users have strong endpoint security, firewalls on their routers, things like that, and kind of helping your remote staff with either tech stipends or technology stipends to help them purchase equipment that they may have or they may need to make sure that they're secure and business as usual.
Thank you. And Chris and Robert, do you want to also follow up on that question or recommendation?
Yeah, really quick. What's the number one threat to every system, right? It's the insider. And I'm not even talking necessarily somebody who wants to be malicious. It could even be the unintended. I would use the word desperation right now to characterize the mood of people wanting and needing to work. So they will go to extreme measures to use that data in ways that you didn't expect, like copy it to their local machine. This is why having in advance a cloud platform, I think, Chris, you were talking about like software as a service, and certainly Anchor, the Anchor product with Axcient's got, a beautiful play there about being able to work from anywhere securely. It doesn't really matter, I don't want to oversimplify it by saying it doesn't really matter what device you're using, but in essence that you can deploy the information flow and the ability for people to get their jobs done from anywhere when you've thought about this. So advice for an MSP is, if you haven't really moved your customer base in this direction, now is really the time to step on the gas, because your competitor will. And if I'm your competitor, I'm having those conversations with them.
Thank you for that advice. Thank you so much. Again, I want to thank the audience for joining us today, and thank you for your questions and engaging with us. And Robert, Chris, and Ben, thank you for all the insight. I appreciate it. And everyone, have a great day.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. And then Dwayne and Marcelo and Dominic, thank you for engaging and posting your questions. So enjoy your day. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.